Luntha guarantees credibility and professionalism in all its endeavors.
I would like to welcome you all to this special program in which Montfort Media is launching a book entitled Words of a Dying Elephant and Other Stories. It's such an honor that we have the author of this book who has come to explain more about this book, perhaps unfolding more on how interesting this book is. You are with me, Evans Kanangaya, and I urge you, our dear viewers, to be there as we'll be explaining more about this book. But before we go straight to the middle of the matter, would you tell us more about yourself?
Right, thanks, Evans. My name is Blessings Mpako. I am a writer. I write short stories. I mostly do short stories, but I also do poetry, and I'm currently venturing into playwright. It's a new field, but then, yeah, I've just finished my first play, and I think, yeah, that very much describes me. But then I so much call myself just a storyteller, because in everything I do, I tell stories. So even though it is through poetry different, but then I consider it as storytelling. So my name is Blessings Mpako, and I'm a storyteller.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when did you start writing?
Well, the first interest in writing mostly came in first year. I was in not first year, Form 1. Yeah, in secondary school. We used to have a writers club. Yeah, we had St. John Bosco Writers Club, and every Saturday that was before I joined. They could post our poems on the notice board, so everything was handwritten. Yeah, so you could write on plain papers and then post on the notice board. And I became intrigued that, I think I can do this. When I would read from my friends what they were writing, and I think I can also do this. And I approached the president, then was Smith. Yeah, so I approached Smith, and we worked on from there. And I started writing and joined the club.
So looking at the time you started writing, you said you started when you were in Form 1.
Yes.
And so far, how many books have you published?
No, sadly, so far this is my first publication. Yeah, this is my first publication, Words of a Dying Elephant. But I'm also working on a novel. Yeah, I'm working on a novel, which it's still in the process, but then, yeah, it's now in the last part that I'm now inquiring from editors their view, so that if there are things to change, yeah, I should see where I change before I release it full as a finished product. And I'm also working on poetry, on a collection of poetry. Yeah, so those are my other projects. But as an official publication, this is my first publication.
Interesting. So looking at this book, which has brought us here, Words of a Dying Elephant and Other Short Stories, perhaps people may be interested to know much about this book. Would you analyze or tell us more about the book you have published recently?
All right. Words of a Dying Elephant is a compilation of short stories. Yeah, so I did not just choose one theme. And a book which covers a whole cross area of themes, but then mostly they are contemporary issues which are relevant in modern day, and also referring to our lives generally as Malawians. Yeah, so most of the issues which are being dealt with in this book are issues which you can relate to, another person can relate to, someone in the village can relate to, but then it also appeals to the someone who is living in an urban setting. Yeah, so the Words of a Dying Elephant is a book which I made for a whole cross population, for every group of people to sit down and read a book, and you can find a story which eventually will speak to you that, well, I think this is my story in the book. And everyone, I'm sure, will find that one story in here, or even multiple stories, which will be very much alluding to you. Yes.
Perhaps when a person is doing something, there should be a driving force, a driving factor for a person to come up with a particular wage. What really motivated you to come up with this book entitled The Weights of a Dying Elephant and Other Stories? What really compelled you to come up with this book? Okay,
so I think firstly I used to write. As I said, I started writing in Form 1, which is a time ago. I started writing in Form 1, but then everything which I would write would end up in the circle of my friends. I used to have a hardcover which I would write in. Everything was handwritten back then. I used to handwrite everything. My friends would read it, and then that would be a win for me. I would celebrate that as I have written something and my friends have read. But then what, right? Like, if I continue doing that, then what if I lose the hardcover which I'm writing in? And how will I continue on or store my stories that I will have to tell someone else in future? Because if I lose how I'm keeping them now, that means everything is gone. All the stories, the time which I put into it, it was all for nothing. So the best stories which I've written so far, edit them and then submit them for publishing, so that at least it will be kept in something solid and with a good publisher as well. Yes.
So looking at the term you have studied, you have said that you started writing, or you started your career of writing. So far, based on the book you have published, this one entitled Weights of a Dying Elephant, perhaps a good number of people have gone through your book.
Yes.
What is the feedback you are getting from the people who have read your book?
All right, I think the first thing, I think the most that is coming in frequently is on the how the stories are shaped in themselves. That you do not expect, right? It is more of giving an expected turn to stories, what they expect when they are reading and how the stories ends. I think that is something which is very good, that at least you're not reading something which is very obvious. You're seeing that there's creativity in this. Someone had to put time in this. And also about I mentioned about contemporary issues. Yes. It's not just, even though I put them in there, but then people are also can still feel some of the effects up to now. So talked about COVID, there's talk about COVID, there's talk about the lives in the rural areas and how it affected it, about early child marriages. So people are more giving more feedback that, oh, this is something relevant. You're giving relevant issues which we can really attest that this is happening or this has happened in our lives. Yeah.
So in addition to that, what you have said, based on the feedback you have got from the people who have gone through your book, I think I remember the first time I was about to read your book. By looking at the title itself, Words of a Dying Elephant and Other Short Stories, by looking at the title, a lot of questions lingered in my mind. I asked myself, what are these words of a dying elephant? And I remember that also compelled me to move on to the table of contents. And when I moved on to the table of contents, I was driven to another level of contemplation after seeing some of the stories contained in your book.
Exactly.
For instance, we have a story, The Village Cried. Having seen this title, I was moved to ask you, why did the village cry? We have also a story which is entitled Desires and the Broken Vessels. Having looked at that, I was also moved to ask myself further, and that gave me an interest to go through the book. Furthermore, we have a story like Parental Confessions. We have That One Step, The Case of the Box Ridges. You also wrote something like The Journey to Lefipa. I also asked myself, what? I was left perplexed up until I had read and appreciated the skills you used to write this book. And now going back to the title of your book, Words of a Dying Elephant. At times I try to relate it with the normal life circumstances. We see at times when a person is about to take a departure, maybe going somewhere for good, a person may leave some words to the people he or she is leaving behind. The children,
the grandchildren, have something to say to them.
Sure.
Exactly.
And at times we have also witnessed if a person is sick, and if that particular person has discovered that there is no hope that the person may recuperate, at times that particular person may say words to the people whom he or she is leaving behind. And most of the times, those words are words of wisdom. And looking at the title of your book itself, which also relates to some of the stories contained in your book, why did you choose this title, Words of a Dying Elephant, despite all the factors which I have mentioned?
Right, so just as an information, right, just to tell you, Lifiba is a real place. Yeah, Lifiba is a place in Katabe. Yeah, I have a friend who comes from Lifiba, so it's something which is from his village, and he likes the story because he did not expect that while we are just talking, I would somehow get a story out of where he comes from. Yeah, so Lifiba is a real place. So if someone is interested to know what happened in Lifiba, well, this is the book. Exactly. But then Words of a Dying Elephant, I think there something we can say there are many elephants in the world.
Sure.
Yeah, that is left up to interpretation. But then there are many dominating figures, dominating circumstances in the world that they had something to say, right? And sometimes we ask ourselves, what if this person told me some other things before they left? So it's all about the words which people, those we take as the dominating figures, those we take as role models. What can they say if they were going, and something which they can leave us? Yeah, so it is much about that.
It sounds quite interesting hearing more about this book. Perhaps our dear viewers, you have just switched on to Luntha TV. We are live here in this special program in which Montfort Media is launching a book entitled Words of a Dying Elephant and Other Stories. We have been privileged to have the author of this book, and he's explaining more about this book. And this was just a preamble of our programs. And I urge you, our dear viewers, to be there as we'll be continuing with our program shortly after this break.
tate wako ndikuuze mwambo wa bwino ukama ndiwona kuno ndikukula ndituma walino zasala weka si chintu cha chilendo omakola uli ndipo dalira sikola mawa litsakala lovuta safuna mapunziro apamwapa ananu koma mzimvera sikolisi lilimocheza chituzingo pita msokolo osabwerera pita msokolo kapita kutaoni kutitika kule zinthu mene wayambira kuyenda kuzungulira ngati wopenga moyo uwafika pena ngati sikwatu konkuja ndani ya mkazi wa lero wachaingakwe kufika hapa makuto ya kusokoloko salero zitu ndichape mbutumayo sapunzira izalira ukukutamano kale kumakulangiza koma iwe sufuna kundimvera limbika sukulu fere ya prinsisi koma iwe sufuna kundimvera kukonda kusewera malomo werenga kusewera uzapindula chani zisankhanzako okonda maphunziro koma iwe sufuna kundimvera ananu koma mzimvera sikolisi lilimocheza chituzingo pita msokolo osabwerera pita msokolo kapita kutaoni kutitika kule zinthu mene wayambira kuyenda kuzungulira ngati wopenga moyo uwafika pena ngati sikwatu konkuja ndani ya mkazi wa lero wachaingakwe kufika hapa makuto ya kusokoloko salero zitu ndichape mbutumayo sapunzira izalira ukukutamano ananu koma mzimvera sikolisi lilimocheza chituzingo pita msokolo osabwerera pita msokolo kapita kutaoni kutitika kule zinthu mene wayambira kuyenda kuzungulira ngati wopenga moyo uwafika pena ngati sikwatu konkuja ndani ya mkazi wa lero wachaingakwe kufika hapa makuto ya kusokolo.
Welcome back, our dear viewers, and that was Sapo Banda with his song. So, my dear brother, you have explained more about your motivation, the time you started the writing, and the number of manuscripts you have written so far, as well as you gave us analysis of your book entitled Words of a Dying Elephant and Other Stories.
Yes.
and you presented the feedback you have got from the people who have read your book.
So far.
Yeah. So perhaps when a person is doing any kind of a career, there should be other challenges, drawbacks, so to say. What are the challenges you have encountered or you authors encounter in this writing industry?
Right, so I think mostly it starts with yourself. Yeah, I think it starts with yourself on how do you balance being an artist and being other things. Because despite that, I'm a writer, but then I'm also a friend to people. I'm also someone who's working, and it comes into balancing those. How do you balance those? But then I also think there's more of talent is there, but then now this is something general, not just about me. I think talent is there in Malawi, but then there has to be a platform of which people can be given so that they come up from where they're writing. Yes, I like the work that Pen Africa is doing. I don't know if you follow Pen Africa. The president is Alfred Sadala.
Yeah.
There is the likes of Imran Magande. Yeah, they are distributing books in primary schools. So at least if you give the children a platform that, well, this is something that can happen. This is let's say they start experiencing that this is writing can take you to these places. I think the talent will be more nurtured in that way, that because now that there's a platform which is being given to them, I think in the long run you will find that there's more emerging writers. Yeah, because we know that there have been writers, but then there are also writers in this generation, but then I think we need to do more on that part.
Interesting. So looking at this career of writing, a person cannot just wake up and then say, I've developed this book. It needs more time and the proper discernment for a person to come up with something substantial like this. So would you tell us, how do you manage to reconcile or harmonize this writing career and your work?
Right, so I think the other story in here has to be chances. Yeah, chances is something I wrote in first year. Right? This is something I wrote in first year, but then I can tell you that the whole of first year I only managed to write 3 stories. Yeah, because I was just into college, the first year in college, and I literally just dropped writing and like, well, I'm here for school, and lost my part of the drive that I'm a writer. But then I think afterwards it was when I was able to associate with more people who are into writing, and I found that you have to plan. Yeah, so we have timetables for classes, we have schedules for work, right? But then we don't really schedule our lives personally. We don't really write down that at this time I'll be doing this, at this time I'll be doing this. Even praying. Sometimes we just pray when, right? We don't really have a schedule that I'll be praying at these times every day. Sometimes we just pray as we feel. But then I think what helped me most in the years after that is that I would schedule that, well, today I'll sleep at this time. These 2 hours I'll concentrate on reading something, or right, for these certain hours I'll be allocating them to writing at least some lines a day, and eventually, yeah, we have the book. Yeah,
That's awesome. So perhaps those people who are watching us live here may be inquisitive to know. Tell us, why should people really buy this book entitled Words of a Dying Elephant and Other Stories? Why should people buy it?
Alright, I think people should buy this book because it speaks to everyone. I think I said that, I emphasized on that in the first part, that eventually you find something that speaks to you, some issue which is closer to home than in the other stories. So I think it is really a good read, and I assure people that they will have a good read. And also, other people want to build the reading culture in their children, right? It is a book which you can give to your child as well, and they'll be able to learn styles, learn 2 or 3 things, they will also be able to practice their grammar and everything else. So I think people should read this book, because despite that, you can read as an adult, you buy it, but then you can also give it to your children, and then even the youth. It appeals to every demographic group. Yes.
So how much is this book, Words of a Dying Elephant?
Words of a Dying Elephant is going at 5,000.
5,000
exactly, and you can find it in St. Montfort bookshops. Yeah.
So just as you have presented in the title itself, Words of a Dying Elephant, as we are going towards the end of this program, would you give us some words or a quotation from your book?
Some words, quotation from my book. Okay, so I think there's a story titled Kute Tree.
Kute Tree.
Yeah. So Kute Tree is a type of tree which it mostly grows in the central region. It mostly grows in the central region. So the story itself is narrated by 3 brothers. Yeah, the story is narrated by 3 brothers who are on a farm, right? But then the real issue in the story is about suicide. Yeah, I wrote it at a time when we were having frequent cases of suicide. Right, exactly. So it was more of how can I write something which depicts what is currently happening, because it's not limited to just one group. Those at a young age, even at elderly people, you'll find that they were resorting to hanging themselves or other ways of going. So my favorite quote would be, and I'll read it so that I shouldn't. Yeah. No man should let a tree pass his judgment, said the brother. And the other brother answered, he passed judgment on himself. It wasn't the tree. So it was more, it's something which is the situation is something that someone is giving the final say on themselves, but then it is the whole story talks of a village where the avenues could be there, where something else where the whole situation would have been prevented. Exactly.
So, all right, our dear viewers, that is the quotation from our guest, Blessings Paco, giving us a quotation from his book. And this book can be found, for those who want to buy it, those who are in Lilongwe, at the Bishop Navy Media Center. If you go there, you'll find our bookshop where we have different products which Montfort Media offers. We also have another bookshop in Ideta, closer to St. Martin de Porres, where you can also access or buy your book. For those who are in Balaka, closer to St. Louis Parish, that is at Imponda, we also have a bookshop. For those who are in Zomba, at St. Charles Ruangwa, we have a bookshop. And soon we'll be moving on to our new bookshop that is closer to Zomba Stadium. And for those who may need an apartment for rent, you are also welcome to rent, and that particular place is at a convenient place where you can do your business easily. For those who are in Blantyre, at St. Pius, we also have a bookshop. Those who are in Mwanza, we also have a bookshop there. For those who are in Sanje, Chikwawa, at Giratu, and those who are closer to Mulanje, at Chitakale, and as well those who are in Mangochi, we have a bookshop at St. Augustine. For those who are in Salima, we also have a bookshop there, as well as Kasungu. So if you need this book, just consult to the bookshops I've mentioned. In case some authors want to publish books with Montfort Media, Montfort Media has embarked on a project in which local authors are promoted. Through this project, local authors or Marian authors pay half of the production cost, and another half is covered by Montfort Media for them to publish their books with Montfort Media. In addition to that, we have introduced online marketing or digital marketing, through which we are able to sell our books worldwide as electronic copies. So if you need more, just visit our website or come to us and we'll assist you accordingly. Furthermore, Montfort Media are also experts in graphic designing and printing. We print brochures, calendars, business cards, magazines, and many more in as far as graphic designing and printing is concerned. So for further arrangements regarding these areas I've mentioned, just consult us and we shall assist you with an excellent expertise. So before we wind up our program, do you have anything to say in addition to the areas you have highlighted regarding your book entitled Words of a Dying Elephant?
Right, I think for my final words, I just want to appreciate everyone who has been there and everyone who is there for who made that this book up